A little girl named Hannah walks in the snowy forest and is watching the movements of a wild deer. She approaches the deer until she has the opportunity and hits it with an arrow. The deer is hit by the arrow but runs away quickly while it is bleeding. Hannah then chases after the deer until it falls to the ground. Then, she takes out a gun and kills the deer. Meanwhile, her father Eric appears behind her and tells her to be more careful later. Hannah tries to hit Eric, but she loses the fight, and it seems they agreed before that the loser will drag the deer to the house alone. In their house, Eric notices that his daughter Hannah is upset because of what happened. He tells her that she must always be careful and not lower her defenses. Eric then tests her in more than one language and asks her about general information. Hannah is 16 years old, and she never leaves the forest or deals with anyone from the outside world. Then, Eric takes a book about animals and talks to his daughter about the blue whales. She asks him what is meant by music, and Eric tries to explain to her the musical instruments and how melodies and songs harmonize with each other. But Hannah wants to hear music in her ears and tells him that she is ready to go out of the woods and see the outside world. So, her father shows her a book that he used to hide from her. She reads the book and sees pictures, then falls asleep. One day, Eric and his daughter wake up. They practice with each other the methods of fighting, and Hannah exercises the way she speaks and the languages she learns. She exercises in physical fitness and how to shoot throughout the day. But at night, while she sleeps, her father sneaks behind her and points his gun at her as a test of her. Hannah succeeds in the test as she managed to knock her father and tie him up, then tells him that she is ready to go to the outside world. Eric gets out of the house and digs in the ground, then brings out something buried. The next day, Hannah plays with a wolf and enjoys her time with him until she hears the loud sound of planes flying over her. Hannah screams with joy because it is the first time she has seen something like this. She runs and goes to her father to tell him about what she saw. Her father told her to press the red button in front of her if she was ready to leave the forest. But Hannah backed down from her decision to leave the forest and chooses to stay with her father at home. Then, the two go out together from the house and walk in the middle of the snow. They watch the sunset, and Eric talks to her about their first experience of launching an animal in a spaceship into space. Hannah then closes her eyes and falls asleep. On the next day, Eric puts on his hunting clothes and hunting equipment. Before leaving the house, he asks Hannah if she wants to go hunting with him, but she refuses to go with him and lets him leave alone. Then, Hannah goes to the red button and presses it. But when she did that, an alarm is turning on in a second house of a woman named Marissa, and brushes her teeth to start her day. Meanwhile, Eric returns from his hunting trip in the woods, and knows that his daughter pressed the red button. He then sits and keeps thinking about their next steps. At the same time, a man comes to the intelligence agency building and tells Marissa that they had discovered a signal in the snowy forest area, and now they can know where Eric is. Then, they held a meeting immediately and are discussing about killing Eric. Someone suggests making Interpol the ones to take over the mission, but Marissa convinces them that she can handle this mission and will be able to deal with the situation. An agent named Lewis enables to know Hannah's location. Meanwhile, Eric wears a suit and made himself look like a businessman, shaves his hair and beard, leaves the house, leaving Hannah behind at home. After a while, the soldiers surround the house, and two of them break into the place. But when they are late, the rest of the soldiers enter to find that Hannah killed the two on her own. So, the soldiers call Marissa and tell her they couldn't catch Eric. She demands them to arrest Hannah and bring her to the agency. At the agency, they put Hannah in a room, and an agent interrogates her. The agent tries to be friendly with her and asks her what she wants. But Hannah tells him that she wants to talk to Marissa, who sees and hears them. But Marissa tells the agent that she will arrive at the agency at night, and the interrogation is postponed. The institution's scientists examine Hannah's blood sample and her DNA, and they were shocked by what they found. Even the head of the laboratory tells the scientists to re-examine to be sure. Marissa arrives at the institution and brings a woman who looks exactly like her to enter the room with Hannah. The fake Marissa wearing a speaker, so Marissa tells her what she has to say, and Hannah asks her how and where she knew her father. Meanwhile, the fake Marissa tells her a fabricated story about how she met Eric on a rainy day in Prague. But Hannah then jumps from her place and hugs her in order to attract the agent's attention. So, they felt anxious and ordered the soldiers to return Hannah to the cell. 2 soldiers go to the interrogation room and open the door trying to inject Hannah with anesthetic. But Hannah is aware of that and kills the fake Marissa and all the soldiers in the room. Then, she leaves the room and moves toward the way out of the institution. She enters the ventilation channels in the institution and crawls inside them until she reaches the storage room. Someone comes out of the bathroom, but sees Hannah with a gun in front of him. And Hannah enforces him to lock himself in the cupboard, so she keeps running from the institution. She sees a scientist, but pushes him away from her way. And the scientist sees her running away from the institution, with several soldiers chasing behind her. Hannah enters the ventilation channels again, but this time she goes up toward the hole. She pushes the cover to get out of it, to find a desert, and realizes that the institution is in an isolated place underground. When she pulls her head out of the hole, many army cars passed over her, but she manages to cling to one of them, and the cars move with her while she is under them. When she reaches a safe place, she leaves the car, and all she can see is desert. Meanwhile, Marissa opens a safe and prepares a file unknown secret, then burns it at night. But it makes her remember the time when she was in charge of killing Eric's family. But Hannah's mother was about to die, and Eric ran away toward the forest with little Hannah. In the desert, Hannah walks and meets a girl named Sophie with binoculars. Hannah introduces herself to Sophie, but Sophie and her brother Miles ignore her. Then, their family calls on them to return to the car. Sophie sees Hannah still behind her, and asks her if she needs a ride to a certain place. But Hannah tells her that she will be fine, and will walk on her feet in the desert. Meanwhile, Marissa is on a private plane belonging to the institution, and tells her assistants to arrest Eric, not Hannah. Hannah sees a group of women washing their clothes in the water of the river. She steals some from their clothes, and keeps walking until she finds a city. Hannah goes to a store that belongs to an old man, and speaks to him in a language other than her own. The old man lets her watch his television, and this will be the first time Hannah watches it. He then leaves Hannah in a room to sleep, but she isn't used to the presence of electronic devices in the room, which frightens her. So, she runs away and leaves to see Sophie and Miles. In another place, Marissa takes a taxi to reach a bar called Safari. She enters and asks the owner of the bar for help, and he agrees to find out where Hannah is. Meanwhile, Hannah is in a hotel with Sophie and her family, and Sophie keeps talking, while Hannah is eating and watching them. The family asks Hannah where she came from, and when they know her real story, they are shocked, and feel sorry for what happened to her mother. In the evening, Hannah hears the call to prayer in Muslim mosques, and she can translate the meaning of it, then reads the report that she stole from the laboratory regarding her DNA sample. On the second day, Sophie is fighting with her family in the car when they reach a crowded area, and they aren't aware that Hannah is with them after she hid inside the car yesterday. In another place, the owner of the bar and his assistant ties a man to a chair, and they check the security cameras to find what they want to know about Hannah. Then they kill the man and leave the place. Meanwhile, Hannah stays in Sophie's family's car, and checks from her place where she is hiding, to know if someone is chasing her. The owner of the bar gets out of his car with his assistant, and they head to the market. At the same time, Eric comes out after swimming in the ocean, but sees 2 officers in front of him, and there is an agent on the bridge waiting for Sophie's family's car to come. When the car passed under the bridge, the agent rides a motorcycle and chases them. Hannah is watching the family from her hiding places, while they are playing and singing together. Then, Marissa and Louis go to the ocean beach, and they bring out the bodies of the police officers, who were killed by Eric in order to escape to the city. But Marissa warns Louis not to tell Interpol about this problem. After a while, Hannah comes out of her hiding place, and goes to a swimming pool and starts to drink its water, because she feels thirsty. But Sophie comes out of the pool, and Hannah asks her about the boys playing together in front of them. One of them looks at Hannah, and takes her behind him on his motorcycle. Hannah feels very happy, and first time has a feeling of freedom. They arrive at a place, and are playing music and singing together. After the songs ended, Hannah sits next to the boy. But when the boy tries to be close, Hannah hits him, and knocks him on the ground, but Sophie then asks her to leave the boy. After that, Hannah tells the boy that she is happy to meet him, then leaves. In the meantime, there are 3 agents who are checking the camps, and one of them, who is the owner of the bar, opens a camp and sees Miles. Then he keeps searching the other camps. Hannah and Sophie return to the camps, but Hannah notices that something strange is happening. Meanwhile, Marissa goes alone to an old woman. Then she wakes her up from sleep, and the two keep talking to each other while they smile. But suddenly, Marissa takes out her gun, puts a silencer on it, and shoots the old woman. At the hotel, Sophie asks Hannah about where she really came from, not what Hannah told her family. Hannah says that unfortunately, she will not be able to disclose such dangerous information, and she begs Sophie to understand. But Sophie doesn't understand anything, and the reason why Hannah can't tell her the truth. Hannah asks her if they can be friends. Sophie agrees and gives Hannah a bracelet as a symbol of their friendship. The next day, the family searches for Hannah, and Sophie tells them that she went out last night. But suddenly, Hannah appears and tells them that she brought breakfast after killing an animal and brought it to them. During this time, Eric gets off the bus at the station and moves around the city, but feels that someone is chasing him. He keeps walking on his way to the subway and notices a strange man behind him. Then, Eric looks around him to see another agent, and one of them tells the institution that they have arrested Eric through wireless. But Eric hits and kills them, then takes the wireless, and knows more information about Marissa. Meanwhile, Hannah is with Sophie's mother in the car, and they are talking to each other while they are moving. But Hannah notices that someone is chasing them. At the same time, Marissa stays at home and listens to an audio recording. Then someone calls her. She picks up the phone to find that Eric is the one who calls her. The two talks to each other for a short time, and Marissa tries to convince him to rejoin the institution. But suddenly one of her agents gets shot, so Marissa realizes that Eric knew her address, and she escapes from the window before he comes to her. In the evening, the same car kept chasing Sophie's family's car, and the mother parks the car to check her map. Also, the car chasing them stops, and Hannah tells them to keep quiet in the car. Then, Hannah thanked Sophie for her kindness, and she quickly ran away from the car. But the agents chase her until they reach a place with huge containers packed together in a way like a maze, and they manage to catch Hannah. But Sophie is worried about her friend and goes to check on her. Then she sees Hannah killing one of the agents. Sophie gets scared of her and runs away quickly from the place. Hannah hits them and manages to escape, then jumps into the water. But the agents catch Sophie and her family and take them to Marissa. Marissa talks to them privately to find out where is Hannah. Meanwhile, Hannah is on a boat heading to an unknown location. But Marissa talks to little Miles, who tells her where Hannah is going. Hannah arrives in a city and walks through the streets until she reaches a place that looks like a forest and contains dinosaur statues. She arrives at a solitary house. Then a man sees her and welcomes her before giving her an envelope with Eric's address. He brings her food and a passport and tells her that she needs a picture of her. The two talk about Hannah's mother while they are listening to music. But suddenly, Marissa arrives at the man's house and breaks into the place with her assistants. But Hannah manages to hide under the bed, and the agents searched the house. Marissa then receives a call from her manager, shouting at her because she went alone without support. Hannah runs away and goes to the city to find a cafe, where she uses a computer to search for her father's name. When Eric arrives at his friend's house, he sees the agents there and escapes again. Hannah breaks into the house where she finds Eric, then asks him if he is her real father. Eric tells her the truth, and that Hannah is the result of genetic tests to make super soldiers. But he tells her that he loves her no matter what. Hannah gets angry when she finds out the truth and tries to leave the house. But Eric tried to stop her. Suddenly, the agents arrive at the house, and the two run away in opposite directions. The agents chase Eric in their car, and they get out of it to chase him. But Eric keeps fighting with them so Hannah can escape. Marissa shoots at Eric and kills him. While Hannah returns to the house of Eric's friend, she sees that there is nothing left there. Then she hears Marissa's voice calling her. Hannah takes an arrow and runs away from the house. But Marissa chases after her in the forest until she catches her. Hannah tells her to leave her alone and that she doesn't want to hurt anyone again. When Hannah leaves, Marissa tries to shoot her. But Hannah senses danger and shoots the arrow at her, and chases her while following the traces of her blood. But Marissa can't escape, and when she tries to put the gun on Hannah, she falls from a high place. Hannah then takes the gun from the ground and kills her. Thanks for watching, take care, and see you in the next video.
Big dog status, I'm a big dog vet. I pull up on the block,